Chapter 2, The Spread of Catastrophe. That night's attack. It cost us a third of the crew. Broken glass, leaking chambers, and the stench of blood in the air. This floating lab has become a battlefield. The ship's lights flicker on and off, and every metallic crash feels like a countdown to our doom. The once solid security doors have buckled under the relentless impacts, twisted and warped, barely able to close anymore. Steel beams are bent out of shape. You can even see the exposed hull down below, scraping against itself with this awful grinding sound. Every single noise is a reminder. This ship is falling apart. The scent of blood is everywhere. It clings to the air, the corridors, even the shattered windows. Every step I take through the blood-soaked floor echoes loudly. Thud. Like death's heavy footsteps shadowing me. I pass by crewmates, some huddled in the corners, sobbing quietly, others standing with their backs to the wall, clutching weapons they probably won't get the chance to use. Their eyes, full of fear. I pushed open the door to the comms room. This used to be the calmest, most orderly place on the ship. Now it's chaos. Every piece of equipment on the walls is trashed. Monitors flashing nothing but static. Their connection to the outside world long dead. I reached out to touch one of the broken radios. Sometimes it buzzes faintly, like it's teasing me with the hope of a response, but most of the time, just static. Deep down I know, we're completely cut off. Suddenly, a massive crash echoed from outside, making my heart skip a beat. The entire ship felt like it was being wrenched by some immense force. And then another jolt, harder this time. I hit the floor, my hands gripping the deck as tightly as I could to keep from sliding. And then, I heard it. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. They were getting closer. Every step sounded like a hammer driving another nail into our coffin. Then came Mary's voice, one of the calmest among us, now trembling with raw terror. "There's something out there. It's tearing through the defenses." I bolted out of the room, following her voice, only to see the unthinkable, a crewman being dragged into the water. His scream, it cut through the chaos, like a blade, and lingered in the air long after he was gone. I froze, helpless, as his body disappeared into the waves. My gut twisted into knots. Around me, panic spread like wildfire. Crew members scrambled in every direction, some retreating to the aft cabins, others fighting to seal off doors that were already bent beyond repair. But deep down we all knew, none of this would matter. Outside those green lights, they were still there, floating, watching. Through the shattered windows, I could see them drifting just beyond the ship. But they weren't just lights, they were eyes. Cold, glowing, unblinking eyes. They stared back at me, piercing through the darkness, full of a terrifying intelligence. These weren't ordinary predators. They were thinking, calculating, toying with us. Those lights danced around the ship like hunters circling wounded. Prey, fast, methodical, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. We tried to fight back. We really did. But every effort we made felt useless, like punching shadows. Their strength, it's beyond anything we could ever prepare for. I stumbled back to my cabin, trying to stay calm, though my hands were trembling uncontrollably. My recorder felt heavier than ever. If there was any hope left, it was in this. A chance to warn the world. I swallowed hard and pressed the record button. My voice came out as barely more than a whisper. "If anyone hears this, please, tell the authorities. This part of the ocean, it's gone. The ecosystem here has completely collapsed. We unleashed something that should have never existed." I paused, gripping the recorder tighter, my knuckles white. This wasn't just a confession, it was a warning to anyone who might come after us. Another scream cut through the air, pulling me back into the moment. I froze, paralyzed, as the ship groaned and shuddered around me. The lights flickered, casting long, shifting shadows on the walls. The once familiar halls offered no comfort now, only cold, suffocating dread. Why did it come to this?" I muttered under my breath, barely audible. The footsteps of panicked crewmates echoed around me, their desperation filling every corner. I tried to move, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. And then I heard it. James's voice. It tore through the darkness like a desperate plea. "Help me! Please, help me!" His voice was raw with fear. I turned to look, but by the time I moved, it was too late. The sound of his screams, it still echoes in my mind. I'll never forget it. I watched, frozen, as James's figure disappeared into the shadows. The silence that followed was worse than the screams. I found myself staring out the window, and that's when I saw it. The massive, hulking shadow in the water. Sharkon. It was there, watching, waiting, its glowing blue eyes pierced through the darkness, cold and unrelenting. My hands shook as I raised the recorder again, my voice barely steady. This is my last message, if anyone out there is still alive. If you're listening, this place, it's not safe anymore. No one can survive here. The monsters in this ocean, they're not just monsters. They're our sin. Suddenly the ship lurched violently, nearly knocking me off my feet. Glass shattered all around me and icy seawater began pouring in. The groaning of the ship's frame was deafening now. I knew this was it. I looked up one last time into Sharkon's eyes. That eerie blue light seemed to pull me in, dragging me deeper into despair. And then I whispered, almost laughing at the absurdity of it all, "So, this is how it ends." I stopped the recorder. The sound of bending metal filled the air as Sharkon smashed through the deformed iron doors. Its footsteps were slow but deliberate. I closed my eyes, praying for the pain to be quick. The last thing I heard was its guttural growl, vibrating through my bones as its shadow loomed over me. Then nothing, just darkness.